Hey guys, it's Chris from Fairly Awesome Podcast with this week's Fairly Awesome WTF movie review.
Oh, what the f***? Is this for real?
This week's film is Death Race Inferno. In case you haven't been following along, Death Race starring Jason Statham was a reimagining of Death Race 2000 starring David Carradine about a driver named Frankenstein in a race where people get killed, the former in prison, and the latter because it makes for good TV. It was followed up by Death Race 2, a direct-to-video prequel starring Luke Goss that gave us the origins of Frankenstein. Spoiler alert, Sean Bean dies. That brings us to Death Race Inferno and the continued adventures of Frankenstein. At the end of Death Race 2, Carl Lucas had been in a fiery crash, presumed dead, but resurrected as Frankenstein, leading into the opening scenes of Death Race. But wait, what's this? Apparently there's always room for another movie, in addition to yummy jiggly jello. R.H. Whalen, the owner of Death Race, is forced to sell the Death Race rights to Niles York, who has big plans to take Death Race global and make bajillions of dollars. Meanwhile, Carl Lucas has his burn scars fixed, and as Frankenstein has won 4 of the 5 races he needs to get out of prison. While Whalen was happy to honor the deal, York needs Frankenstein to stay in the game and threatens Lucas and his friends if he doesn't throw the next race, which has been relocated to a prison in Africa. Before the race begins, the host of the new Death Race, Satana, announces Navigator Wars, in which 16 beautiful women prisoners, including Frankenstein's Navigator Katrina, will vie for 10 Navigator positions. After a bit of hot lady-on-lady fighting action, the Navigator field is whittled down to 10 and the race is ready to go. As a final precaution, every driver and Navigator is fitted with a GPS monitor, so the prison can keep track of their locations and kill anyone who tries to escape. Death Race Africa begins with 11 drivers, since apparently one of them didn't actually need a Navigator, ready to go. Drivers this go-round are Olga, the first female driver, Joker, Pretty Boy, Tasmanian Devil, Psycho, Nero, Jackal, Razor, 14K, one of the 2 people to appear in all 3 Death Race movies, Baby, and of course, Frankenstein. Jackal gets a bit too anxious, jumps the gun, and is obliterated in a show of how the tracking missile system works. Unsurprisingly, a handful of drivers don't survive the first sector of the race, which Frankenstein barely loses. At the end of the next sector, Goldberg, Frankenstein's pit chief, is killed. Frankenstein wins, but is reminded by York that he can't win the final race or he'll be killed and tortured. Satana finds out York plans to replace her and makes a secret phone call to an unknown benefactor about York's plans and her displeasure. The final sector starts with 4 drivers, one of whom will be the big winner. In a final twist, Frankenstein gives up a massive lead, allowing 14K to win. Instead of crossing the finish line, Frank makes a beeline for York's control room where he's been handcuffed to a table by Satana. An explosion ensues. Everyone appears to be dead, but it is announced that Frankenstein is still alive to race again. Hooray! Turns out Whalen made a deal with Frankenstein to, through a series of fake deaths and planted lackeys, allow Lucas and his crew to go free as promised and install York as the new Frankenstein. So everybody wins. The big problem with Death Race Inferno is that it got made. Death Race was different enough from Death Race 2000 to stand on its own without any real complaints about it being a remake. And I can see having a small amount of desire to explore the life of the original Frankenstein that Jason Statham's character replaces. Death Race 2 takes care of that desire by introducing the original Frankenstein as a legitimate convict. So we have a Frankenstein that deserves to be in prison at the beginning of Death Race, and Statham's Frankenstein that was framed and deserves to escape. A nice little package all tied up with a bow. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, someone decided that either A, Lucas deserves some sort of redemption movie, or B, money. The movie isn't terrible, but it's pretty much just more racing to the death, and those deaths usually involve rolling over or getting hit by a missile. There's nothing really exciting or different, other than the numerically challenged Navigator Wars. None of the characters are evolved in any way, with the exception of maybe Psycho, who 2/3 of the way through the movie pretty much gives away the entire ending. There are multiple times where audio and video lose synchronization. There's the aforementioned 10 Navigators for 11 racers, which actually works out okay since the scoreboard is only 10 racers long. There's replacing Lucas's American Frankenstein with the heavily British accented York Frankenstein that no one seems to notice. And there are several characters whose names changed somewhere along the line but didn't get updated. Satana is credited as Diabolos, Joker is credited as Sergeant Fury, and Baby, who is credited as Baby, is listed as Fury on the scoreboard. So if you feel you want to delve any further into the Death Race series than the first film, stop at Death Race 2. You won't miss anything worthwhile. Also, maybe this is just me, but does anyone else raise an eyebrow with a character in a film not being played as themselves has either the same name or a nickname as the actor playing them? Carl Lucas is nicknamed Luke and is played by Luke Goss. I'm not saying that's the case here, but it always makes me kind of wonder if the actor has such a hard time remembering his character's name and responding properly that the director is just like, fuck it, call him his real name, we'll work it out in post. Alright, that wraps up Death Race Inferno. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube for our video updates. Leave any comments or suggestions for movies you'd like to see reviewed in the comments below. Follow us on Twitter at Fapcast, like us on Facebook, and unless shitty movies are sentenced to death by Baja Race, we'll see you next time.